You're watching Canadian Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. From Toronto, Ontario, this is Samia Sayed. Welcome to the show. Coming up very shortly is an interview with the Muslim-Indigenous Connection on who they are and what they do. But first, let's take a look at some headlines. Canadians skipping meals to save grocery costs. Nisa homes to open new shelter in Hamilton, Ontario. Sound Vision Canada holds first gala. Israel holds fifth election in less than 4 years. And now the details. A survey by the Canadian Hub for Applied and Social Research at the University of Saskatchewan shows that a majority of respondents are using coupons or hunting for sales to cope with the rising costs of groceries. Nearly 20% of the 2001 respondents say they are reducing meal sizes or skipping meals altogether to save money. 59% of the respondents say that they have been cutting household waste to cut down food costs. Grocery and food item prices have climbed at the highest rate since 1981. Since last year, prices have increased by 11.4%. Hamilton, Ontario is set to open its first shelter for Muslim women in November, reports a media source. Nisa Homes, which has 10 locations across Canada, is opening the home due to high demand. Earlier this year, they received 40 applications from Hamilton within a month for shelter services at other locations as far away as 75 kilometers. The new Nisa Homes will have 16 beds. It will provide culturally sensitive services to any immigrant woman, refugee, or non-status woman facing domestic violence, poverty, or homelessness. Services will be offered in multiple languages, including English, French, Arabic, Farsi, Punjabi, and Somali. Sound Vision Canada, or SVC, held its first gala on Friday in Mississauga, Ontario, with the theme Ihsan, Building a Community of Excellence. Over 200 community members attended the event. The keynote speaker was Sister Razia Hamidi, a Muslim life coach and counselor. A panel discussion featured successful Muslim leaders asking them about their challenges and strategies for success. Sheikh Hussam Hilal gave a special address on the need for training that can help develop our ummah and the local community. SVC is a registered charity that offers subsidized professional and personal development programs, such as khatib training and media crisis communications. Israeli voters will cast a ballot tomorrow in the country's fifth legislative election in less than 4 years. Opinion polls suggest that no single party will be able to secure a majority in the 120-seat parliament to form a government. Surveys by 3 Israeli broadcasters give the Netanyahu-led bloc 60 seats against 56 seats to the current coalition of Prime Minister Yair Lapid. Observers say that if any party fails to form a majority government, Israel will be heading to a 6th election amid deep political polarization in the country. Palestinians form 20% of the total population in Israel, but a recent survey suggests that no more than 39% will vote. And that's it for the news. Now, the new cohort for the Muslim-Indigenous Connection just launched earlier this month. To hear more about who they are and what they do, we have Sister Dalia Al-Dhamna joining us now. Welcome, Sister Dalia, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for having me.
Wa alaikum assalam. It's always a pleasure. Sister Dalia, tell us about the Muslim-Indigenous Connection, or MIC. How did it all start?
So MIC is a program actually that started last year with a group of volunteers. It's a program that has 3 parts to it. The first part is the educational part, is actually what we're in right now with the second cohort. And the educational part is just a bunch of sessions. Last year was all virtual because of COVID. This year it's a combination of virtual and in person. So these educational sessions basically are to educate us about the Indigenous communities, and they're given by Indigenous as well as Muslim speakers and leaders. And there's a lot of emphasis in these sessions about how we can become, as Muslims, allies to the Indigenous community, and how we can amplify their voices instead of talking for them. So, for example, in a couple of weeks, we have a session with an Indigenous author, and she'll be talking to us about the residential school system that she was a part of, and her book is about. She'll tell us about what it was about, and how it impacted her, as well as how it's impacted the Indigenous community. So that's the educational part. The second part is a site visit. So last year, we actually spent the whole day at the reserve in Brantford, where we visited a bunch of places. We went to a longhouse where we learned about, the family structure, how they live, a bit about agriculture. We went to a church. We did some local shopping, and the highlight of the site visit was actually the Woodlands Cultural Center, where we also visited a residential school. It was closed at the time because of renovations, but we were there. We saw the school, and we met up with a residential school survivor who actually attended that school, and we got to listen to him, who he spoke in great detail about his experience at the school. So that's the second part. The third part of the program is the micro projects. So we divide the participants into small groups, and they are to come up with an idea, a project idea, discuss it, and implement it. And that could be anything and everything, really. So, for example, last year we had a group of participants that came up with a website that to bring awareness to mental health issues within the Indigenous community. We had another group raise funds to a school, and another group raise funds and buy supplies that are needed by a women's shelter downtown. So it
Now,
could
you've recounted 3 areas so far, and all of them are quite general. So there's definitely a lot to talk about today, and I will address them later on in this interview. But I'm wondering, when MIC started last year, and now there's a second cohort, is there anything that changed in between that first and second one? Maybe having gone through the first one, they were like, okay, we should try this something different for this year.
Yeah, so definitely because it was a new program, there were a lot of things that we did differently this year. And also to take into account that last year was all during COVID. So a lot of the program was virtual compared to this year, where a lot of it is in person. Another thing is the graduation ceremony last year was all online. It was not as personal as we would have liked it. This year, it's definitely going to be in person. Something else that we learned from last year is the program took quite a long time. Like we did it, I think, in 6 months or over. This year, it's a little more condensed. So we've learned from what we did last year for sure, and we're trying to better the program for the youth.
Mhm. And when you recruit for the new cohorts, how do you choose who is being accepted?
I'm not actually a part of the committee that decides who gets accepted, but it is there is an application process. So the word, like there's advertisement that comes out to advertise that we are accepting applications for the next cohort of the MIC program, and they apply. And they have to specify why they want to be in the program, what do they want to achieve out of this program. And depending on their answers, I believe that's how we choose the participants. It's also, they need to be physically, in preferably in the GTA, because it's just difficult to have people from out of province. We did have, I know, participants that applied that were actually out of Canada, so they couldn't really be a part of it. So yeah, there's some criteria, and that's how they pick the participants, and also an age group. I believe it's 14 or 15 to 20, if I'm not wrong. So it's made for the youth, Muslim youth.
Mhm. Yeah, that was actually my next question to ask. What age groups can get involved? But I'm glad that you addressed that right off the bat. I'm wondering, with MIC, an initiative like MIC, why is it so important to have initiatives like them?
It's important because, well, what we're trying to achieve by MIC is basically to like Muslim youth, to build Muslim youth that understand who the indigenous community is, what are the struggles, and one of the objectives of the program is to build youth that understand allyship and understand how to be supporters of the indigenous community. What I find a lot of the participants, when they talk about why they decided to be a part of this program, one of the first things they say is they have no idea what's going on. And they have no idea who the indigenous people are because in schools, they don't talk about it in great detail. It's only in very recent years that we kind of hear about it in schools, every child matters and Orange Shirt Day and so on. But um, for me, honestly, I don't know much about it because we were not taught in schools. So we want to achieve and build youth that are very aware of who the Indigenous community is, and build that allyship so that we can become allies and supporters of the Indigenous community.
Mm. Now, this was launched last year and you are on the second cohort. How has the MIC initiative been received, whether it was by the participants or even community groups?
Um, it's had definitely like a lot of positive feedback. There's a lot of people that are interested. I don't think we've had any trouble finding participants because the interest is definitely there. There's a lot of people that are interested and that are very, they want to be a part of it. So it's been taken very well, and there's a lot of positive feedback for sure.
Mhm. And for everyone who was not able to get accepted, unfortunately, into the cohort, how can they learn more about Indigenous issues and history?
Definitely try to be a part of initiatives like this. Is a good step. There's also a lot of great websites, a lot of great books that are written by great Indigenous authors. There's a lot of resource actually. You just kind of have to look for it and make sure it's authentic. And another way, honestly, is to visit, the reserve or visit other sites that are nearby, that represent Indigenous communities, museums, or cultural centers. Like the Woodlands Cultural Center in Brantford was amazing. So there's definitely a lot of resources out there.
Mhm. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Sister Dahlia. It was a pleasure having you on the show. You are watching Canadian Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. That's it from our Toronto studios tonight. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more Canadian Muslim content. Stay safe, and until next time.